I'm currently in my research era for my book. Put a bunch of notes in bullet points. Hey guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things books and writing. I'm currently in my research era for my book. My book is basically the first draft is done, and now I'm digging deeper. All the basics of my story are already up and there, the romance, the plot, most of it's there. And now I am world building in a deep dive kind of way. And so I kind of feel like I'm in my Legally Blonde era when she basically is like, I'm gonna show you, Warner.
I'll show you how valuable our woods can be.
And she like goes to the library and is just like carrying books all the time and like writing on her laptop that's orange. Anyways, I feel like I'm in my Legally Blonde era. I have all the books. I have pages and pages of notes. I have not even gone through this whole stack of books yet. That is like the amount of notes for just one book that I have researched so far for my fantasy romance novel. So come along. I am going to be documenting the rest of this research journey so that I can make the world building in my fantasy romance, These Cursed Sands Between Us, seem realistic and authentic and have all those good like little juicy details that are actually steeped in history that is relevant to my story. It kind of all started, I decided to do a lot of research for my current work in progress, which is a fantasy romance called These Cursed Sands Between Us. So it all started with Six of Crows this week. I was kind of struggling on some of my world building and what to do with kind of like occupations of different people and just a few other things that I felt like I didn't have completely nailed down in like how the world works and what everybody's doing. Anyways, my friend is reading Six of Crows for the first time right now. She just finished the Shadow and Bone series. She moved on to this, and we were talking about the ending because she's very close to the end. And I was like, oh, I know this ending was great, so I wanted to reread the ending to kind of like see what she was talking about and where she was going to be. And I ended up looking at Leigh Bardugo's acknowledgements for her book, and a huge portion, she has like multiple paragraphs here where she's quoting different books that helped her build her world, Ketterdam, and just kind of like a lot of the different main characters and things like that. And the amount of information that she researched was so impressive to me that I kind of decided to take that approach with my book in order to make it feel more tangible and just kind of like a real place and not like a blurry outline of like fantasy world. Because my story is a fantasy romance, the romance is heavily featured. The world building is there, but when I created this story, it wasn't focused on the world building and political intrigue, and it was more about this concept that I came up with and the romance. So I've had to build a lot of the world building, and because it was loosely inspired by Aladdin, and the more I delve into this book, it is so loosely inspired by Aladdin. It is veering very heavily away from the original plot of that completely. So it's kind of like awkward to even like consider it. I feel like loosely inspired by Aladdin, but it's somewhere in there, and it has elements of kind of like, I would say like Easter eggs of Aladdin in there more than like the real full plot or like a retelling, but it is inspired by it. That's where I got the main idea, but it's taken on the library portion of it that I kind of created about this world of like library guardians basically. It's just like taken on its own thing and just kind of run away with itself. And originally when I was doing this, I had a library that was in mind, and it was a library in kind of like the Sahara Desert that is a real thing, and I took some inspiration from that. And then I also felt like the Library of Alexandria was kind of where my head was going at with this. So now I'm infusing a lot of Library of Alexandria and like ancient history, ancient Greek history into it. So anyways, what I did this week, after Six of Crows, Leigh Bardugo inspired me to take a deeper look into research. I did a lot of internet research first, going through a lot of historical ideas of libraries and library systems, and then I kind of went through those articles and looked at what book sources they used to create those articles, because I wanted more information. So I ended up looking for all of those books, and then I spent like the whole day trying to figure out how to locate them and which ones my local library had and which ones I might have to purchase online. So I made a huge list. The first stash of books that I did is freaking huge. I got books on libraries, I got books on ancient Greece, because basically the more research I did, I realized that all of the ancient libraries I was basing things off of, unless they were like specifically just for like religious documents in like the Islamic community, basically all of them had either ancient Greek or like Hellenistic era influence or like Egyptian influence, and some of them had both because of who kind of like conquered at the time and who was running it. But a lot of the concept that I was looking at had to do with Greek influence and how they were developing systems like libraries and people who were transcribing things and copying books. So I got a lot of culture from there, and that kind of made me feel better because I wanted this culture that I'm creating, because it is so heavily centered on like a major center of learning throughout the world in this fictional fantasy world that I have created. I wanted it to kind of be like a melting pot of cultures because of how many different people would be coming into the area for, you know, studying, for research, for access to these library books. And I wanted people to be of different origins. So now that I have kind of like a basis for that, it is so much easier.
If I wrote you a song, if I got every word perfectly weighted on a thin piece of paper, would it make any difference? Would it change for the better? If I wrote you a poem, if I posted a letter? Is it maybe because I never knew quite where I was, then suddenly you told me, baby.
Hey guys, it's the next day. It is Saturday now, and it's about 9 a.m. right now, and I've been working on everything for about an hour. I just wanted to kind of share like what I'm doing. So I did a couple different things this morning. A lot of what I'm doing now is basically from a lot of the research that I did. I am trying to find different locations to insert it, like which chapters it needs to go into. So basically I opened up a Word doc. So usually I write in vellum like this, where it's all I don't even know if you can see that, but usually I write in vellum where it's all formatted over here, and I like that a lot. It's been great, but I don't really want to mess up this copy because technically this is like still draft 1 on my vellum thing, so I'm basically copying it over into a Word doc so that I can see it, like I have Grammarly on here, so it has a nice spell check and everything. So I've been going through and just like changing a couple of like commas and whatnot, adding that kind of stuff, which is good. But at the end of each chapter that I'm putting in, I'm basically doing bullet point notes and talking about what elements of the research I did that I want to add to it. So here's kind of like an example. This is my chapter 1, and at the end of it, I did like a separate thing with chapter 1 notes. Just make that notes because there's a bunch there, and just kind of put in here, hold on. I couldn't tell how much you could read of this, so I decided to just like black it out and highlight. So basically I just put a bunch of notes in bullet points, and I'm doing that for each of the chapters. So Father's Day. So that I can go back in and kind of add. It's also been really good to go back and look at my chapter 1 because some of the attitudes I had, like of what I thought I was like presenting with my character and like the world, are no longer true. I need to go in and change some of those things, and it's just like a line or two of just like something she said, my main character, and it really just doesn't ring true anymore, and I don't want it to be like confusing. So I'm also trying to go through, like I rewrote this whole first paragraph here. I felt like I was showing you a lot of the actual book, which I don't want to do. And so I'm gonna stop showing you like the upfront there. I just rewrote the whole first paragraph, and now I'm like, I want to like cut out some words, so I need to that's what I was kind of going through and doing, because somehow it got really wordy, even though it's only, I think I made it 3 sentences, but before it was like 2, so now it's like a 3-sentence first paragraph, but I want it to be a bit shorter than it is. And it's like, there's too many like random words that don't need to be there. I don't know, or repeating words. I already changed some of that. I think I had the word about in there like 3 times. This is gonna be brutal, this like very intense editing experience, because I'm just gonna see how many times I use the same words over and over, which will be really fun. I always hated this part when I wrote like essays and stuff, when you're going through and changing it. Not cool. But adding all this research is very cool. I'm loving it. So right now I'm working on, I just added to my first chapter, it's in a history book on Mesopotamia basically, and a lot of how they used to, kind of like how they predict the future and different things is very similar to what I was already trying to portray. I don't know, so there was a lot more language to draw from here, which is good.